6 moments when your cat is reading. Your cat understands more about you than you realize. Most people think cats are mysterious because they hide so much of themselves. They disappear into their own moods, stare into corners for no reason we can see, and move through the house like they are following a logic that belongs only to them. But if you live with a cat long enough, you start noticing something else. They are not only unreadable, they are reading you too. Not in the human sense, of course. Your cat is not analyzing your thoughts or understanding your problems in words, but they are incredibly good at noticing patterns in your body, your voice, your rhythm, your energy, and the emotional atmosphere of a room. They notice when you move differently. They notice when you go quiet. They notice when your breathing changes. They notice when you are about to leave, when you are about to settle in, when you are restless, when you are heavy, when you are not really present, even though your body is still there. And because cats are so subtle, a lot of people miss these moments completely. They think the cat is just sitting nearby, staring, waiting for food, or being weird in that special cat way. But sometimes your cat is doing something much deeper than that. Sometimes they are reading you. Here are 6 moments when your cat may be paying closer attention to you than you ever realized. 1. When you are emotionally off, even if you have not said a word. One of the strangest things about cats is how quickly they seem to notice when something in you has shifted. You may not be crying. You may not even be doing anything dramatic. Maybe you are just quieter than usual. Maybe your shoulders are tighter. Maybe you are sitting in the same place longer than normal. Maybe your breathing is shallower, your movements are sharper, or there is a heaviness in the room that only your body is expressing. And then your cat appears. Sometimes they sit in front of you and just stare. Sometimes they jump onto the bed, the couch, or the desk without doing much at all. Sometimes they move closer than usual. Sometimes they do the opposite and watch you from a short distance with unusual focus. It is easy to assume that none of this means anything. But cats are extremely sensitive to change, especially change in the rhythms they know best. If your energy feels different, your cat often knows before you have even named it for yourself. This does not mean every cat responds to human sadness by becoming affectionate. Some become quieter, some keep watch from across the room. Some interrupt you more. Some simply stay nearby longer than usual. But the common thread is this. They notice when your emotional weather changes, and many of them adjust their behavior in response. 2.
Your breathing
When you
may
are
be
focused
shallower.
on something that takes your attention away. You sit down with your laptop and suddenly your cat is on the keyboard. You open a book and they lie across the exact page you were reading. You start folding laundry and they plant themselves in the middle of the clothes. You pick up your phone, lean into your work, or settle into a task that has all of your concentration, and somehow your cat arrives at that exact moment. Most people read this as attention-seeking behavior, and sometimes that is true. But there is also something more observant happening underneath it. Your cat notices where your attention goes. They notice the shift in your posture when your mind locks onto something. They notice the repeated movements of your hands, the way your eyes keep returning to the same object, the way your body becomes still while your focus disappears into something else. And then they place themselves directly into that stream of attention. It is not always random mischief. Sometimes your cat is reading the fact that, in that moment, something else has become emotionally important in the room. They may not understand what you are doing, but they do understand that your energy has gone somewhere. And many cats respond to that by stepping into the exact place where you just went. 3. When you are about to leave the house, cats are far more aware of departure rituals than most people realize. They know the difference between you wandering from room to room and you actually preparing to leave. They watch for the bag, the shoes, the jacket, the keys, the final walk toward the door. They notice the pace change. They notice the sequence. They notice the emotional shift in the room when your energy starts pulling outward. That is why some cats appear at the doorway just before you go. Some follow you more closely in those final minutes. Some watch from a chair, the stairs, or the hallway with a kind of still attention that feels different from ordinary staring. Some even pretend not to care while quietly placing themselves in the path between you and the exit. This is not always separation anxiety. Sometimes it is simply recognition. Your cat has memorized the pattern that means you are about to vanish from their shared environment for a while. They are reading not just the objects in your hand, but the entire emotional choreography of leaving. And if your cat starts appearing in these moments again and again, it often means they are more tuned into your comings and goings than you think. You are part of their structure, so when that structure is about to shift, they notice. 4. When you finally sit still after being busy for too long. There is a very specific kind of moment many cat owners know well. You spend the day moving around, cleaning, working, cooking, answering messages, walking in and out of rooms, never fully settling anywhere. Your cat is around somewhere, but not especially close. Then the moment you finally stop, really stop, they appear. They jump onto the couch, they curl onto the bed, they settle beside your legs. They sit on the table, the arm of the chair, or the floor near your feet. They may not even want anything obvious. They just arrive. Why? Because cats read stillness. A human who is rushing is one kind of presence.
You okay, little guy?
A human who is finally settled is another. When you stop moving, you become easier to approach, easier to predict, easier to join. Your energy changes, the room changes, and your cat often notices that shift immediately. This is one of the clearest ways cats read our state. They know when we are mentally elsewhere, physically unavailable, or emotionally scattered.
You came back.
And they know when we have finally come back into the room in a way that feels still enough to share. That is why some cats do not really approach you during the most active parts of the day. They are waiting for the version of you that has become readable again. 5. When you are vulnerable, tired, or half asleep. There is something about human vulnerability that many cats pay close attention to, not because they fully understand it in human terms, but because they recognize changes in rhythm, awareness, and control. When you are tired, sick, lying down, half awake, or moving more slowly than usual, you become different in ways your cat can feel.
Meow.
This is why some cats watch you before you wake up. It is why some climb onto the bed when you are exhausted, but avoid it when you are active. It is why some settle closer when you are curled up under a blanket or lying still in the dark. You are less imposing in those moments, less directional, less noisy, less hard to read. Your body is speaking more softly, and cats are often very attuned to that. Some cats seem especially drawn to these vulnerable states. They may lie near your head, settle by your legs, sit in the doorway while you sleep, or appear when you are unwell. Others simply watch from a small distance with unusual steadiness. Either way, many cats seem to recognize that something in your state has lowered, softened, or changed, and they respond. In those moments, your cat may not be taking care of you in the human sense, but they may absolutely be reading that you are in a more defenseless, quieter, more open state than usual. 6. When you are trying to hide how you feel. This may be the most unsettling one of all. There are times when you do not say anything, do not do anything obvious, and still have the strange feeling that your cat somehow knows. You are keeping it together. You are not crying. You are not making a scene. But inside, something is off, and your cat keeps looking at you differently, staying nearby longer, interrupting you more, watching you from the doorway, choosing your space in a more deliberate way. Cats are not reading the story in your head, but they may be reading the leak around the edges, the tension in your jaw, the silence in your hands, the rhythm of your breathing, the way you sit without really resting, the way your body is technically still but not calm. Humans are often much less unreadable than we think we are, And cats, because they live so much through pattern and atmosphere, can become very sensitive to the difference between your outside and your inside. They may not know why you are off, but they may know that you are off. That is why a cat can seem oddly present in moments when you are trying hardest to act normal. They are not reacting to your performance. They are reacting to the part of you that your body did not hide. Your cat may not understand your life, but they understand your shifts. That may be the simplest way to say it. Your cat does not know your deadlines, your family history, your relationships, your fears, or the exact reasons you feel the way you feel. But they do know your patterns, and because they know your patterns, they notice your shifts. They notice when the room feels different because you feel different. They notice when your attention leaves. They notice when your body settles. They notice when you are preparing to disappear. They notice when you are softer, slower, more vulnerable. And sometimes they notice when you are pretending to be fine. That does not mean every cat will respond in the same way. Some come closer, some watch from a distance, some interrupt, some simply hold you in their field of awareness more carefully than usual. But the important thing is that they are not as indifferent as people often imagine. And maybe that is one of the quietest forms of connection. Cats do not always show love in obvious ways. They do not make grand gestures. They do not constantly reassure us. They do not always come when called, and they certainly do not explain themselves. But one of the quietest, most powerful things a cat can do is this. They learn your patterns so well that they start noticing when something inside you changes. And once you realize that, a lot of their behavior stops looking random. The doorway stare, the sudden closeness, the perfectly timed interruption, the strange watchfulness before you leave, the calm presence when you finally collapse into stillness. The way they appear when you are trying not to show that anything is wrong. Maybe your cat is not just living beside you. Maybe, in their own silent and deeply feline way, they are reading you all the time.